Hello children, today we are going to begin with a new poem and it is called In the Bazaars of Hyderabad. This poem has been written by Sarojini Naidu. Now Sarojini Naidu was actually a freedom fighter and she survived from 1897 to 1949. Now Sarojini Naidu was a freedom fighter, a scholar and a poet. She was the first woman to become the President of India, Indian National Congress, and the first woman to become the Governor of Uttar Pradesh. Now children, before I go ahead, let me just brief you a little more about Sarojini Naidu. Okay, let's see something more about her. Sarojini Naidu was born in Hyderabad on the 13th of February. She was born here in Hyderabad itself, 13th of Feb in Hyderabad, and she survived till the 2nd of March, and she breathed her last breath in Lucknow. That was the place where she had where she was finished there, and a wonderful span of her time that she had been into the freedom fighting kind of an atmosphere where at that time the Britishers had been ruling and she was a freedom fighter also there. Let's know a few more details about her. To begin with, as I just read that little part about her, she was the first woman to, the first thing was that she had become the president, not of India of course, to become the president of the Indian National Congress, of the Indian National Congress. Secondly, she was the first woman to become, there was another interesting thing about her, she was the first woman to become the governor. The governor of which state? Uttar Pradesh. Yes. So these are the two very important things about her, where she was the first lady to become the president of the Indian National Congress, and at the same time she had become the governor of Uttar Pradesh, and she was the first lady to become the governor of Uttar Pradesh. Let's see a little more about our poet here today. Since she was an Indian, we should be knowing a lot about the details about how she had been doing, how was she a writer, and a little more about what her work was all about. Now, she was also, let's see the first points we took up. Freedom fighter. She was a freedom fighter. Next, she was a scholar. Who is a scholar, children? Somebody who is very knowledgeable, has a lot of knowledge about the subject the person is an expert with. So she was a scholar, and finally she was a poet too. We are going to come across this poem here in the Bazaars of Hyderabad, which is the most famous and the most important work that poetry that she's put up. Now let me give you a background of the poem when this was done. In those times, children, it was India was being ruled over by the British people. Now this poem has been written by Sarojini Naidu, and in this poem she has tried to put in vibrant colors, and she's been describing what? The bazaars of Hyderabad, right? Now she has been talking about the bazaars of Hyderabad, and she is mentioning a lot about those bazaars. Now why is she into this, why is she showing us the vibrant colors of the bazaars? At that time, India was ruled by the British, and the Britishers did not let the Indians gather in a group together and discuss certain things. there might be some problems later on. They were not allowed to publish newspapers. The newspapers were stopped. But the Indian newspapers were stopped. They were not allowing us, the Indians, to publish the newspapers. Why so? Because it was a kind of a place where people could talk to others and tell others how to do things, what to do things. There could be rivals, there could be fights. So misguiding, there could have been possible. That's what the Britishers thought at that time. So they had banned the Indian newspapers that time. Now there had to be a way to convey the messages. In those times, there was another thing which was banned, was that the products, Indian made products, were not allowed in India to be sold. The Britishers were trying to bring in the materials from their country, from there, and then sell it off in India and get a lot of money, and that money could be taken back to their place. So now what was happening, the laborers, the people, the peasants here in India were getting from poor to more, they were getting more poor and all. They didn't have much work to do, so obviously they didn't work well, they didn't earn well. Now that increased their poverty. What the poet here, as a freedom fighter, thought that she would write a poem, and in that poem she would try to convey her message of going in for Indian products than any other kind of products. So that was her main aim, to go about with the writing of the poem. The first thing that we know about the poem is that, let's put it point wise. The first thing we know, it is full of vibrant, colorful poem. Okay. Now during the explanation of the poem, I'll tell you why is it vibrant and how come the colors are being shown here. It's not painted with beautiful colors, of course not, but in the poetry a number of things have been portrayed in such a way that you can feel, you can see the things happening, the things as if they are being presented right in front of you. You can get to see them. Okay, that was the first and most important point of the poem. Secondly, what we know was it was written during the British rule. It was written during the British rule. So as I just explained to you that since Indians were asked to boycott foreign products and buy goods from traditional Indian bazaars. Now they were going to boycott the foreign bazaars. The foreign goods were going to be boycotted by India, and they had to go in for Indian bazaars. So this was one of the Indian bazaars, the Bazaar of Hyderabad, where lots of things and a variety of things were available. But since people were unaware of that, by the medium of this poem, Sarojini Naidu is bringing this concept out of buying the products from Indian markets, Indian bazaars. Bazaar is actually a Hindi word, and instead of market, the word bazaar has been used here. Now, another thing that we came to know, production of newspaper, the publication of newspapers. The publication of newspapers was banned at that time. Okay, was banned. Now this is a time when we need to portray or show us the markets of India to other people all over. That could have been done in different ways by the writings of poets. Poems could be read. If poems, the pamphlets of the poetry could be given, poem could be recited and then told. So nobody would come to know that this is kind of an advertisement or inviting people to buy Indian products and boycott the foreign goods. So this was one very important reason why this poetry. Now I'm giving you the reasons how this the poem was born actually. Another thing was that Sarojini Naidu thought that this was the best way to spread the message to the people was in a way of poetry. Okay, now she describes the beauty of Hyderabad Bazaar. Beauty of Hyderabad Bazaar is shown. Okay, beauty of Hyderabad Bazaar is shown in the form of a poem. Now, what all are the things which are being shown in about the poem here, about the bazaar here, is a lot of things here. It gives us a pictorial scene. I'll talk about the beauty of Hyderabad Bazaar. Okay, the beauty of Hyderabad Bazaar. I'll just come and brief you again with the different beautiful things which have been portrayed. But before that, let me just put this another one, that you get a pictorial scene. Pictorial scene, actually, when you're reading the poem, you get a picture of the entire thing as if it's happening right in front of you. You enjoy that scene that is being told to you, and you can feel that it is happening right there in front of you. You're a part of it. Okay, let's come up with this beauty of the Hyderabad Bazaar. What all things were there as the beautiful part of it, of the bazaar that time? Simply different people. Now, basically what is bazaar? Where people come, sell their products, people buy the products. So you have sellers and buyers. So this is a mixture of the people who were selling. There were merchants. Now, merchants are people who buy and sell. Okay, next we had the vendors. If you come across, you have people coming in your lanes selling vegetables, or they are shouting for something and they are selling that. They are those vendors. They take those four-wheeled cart and they move around with their stuff and they sell. That is a vendor. Or you have the peddlers also. You have the peddlers. And peddlers are again on foot when they are selling. They are not on carts and all. They are on foot. They are paddling, maybe on a cycle they can take it. We had those also in this poem. Then further we have the goldsmith. Now, who is a goldsmith? Obviously, goldsmith, person who makes ornaments of gold. Next we have the fruitmen there. We have a little fruitmen, as the name suggests. There were people who sell fruits. Next we had flower girls. Again, as the name tells us, these were the girls who sold flowers. Maybe they made garlands and they lots of things out of flowers that they made. That was sold in the market. We also had musicians there. We had the musicians, and finally we also had the magicians. Now, why magicians? They used to perform there and earned their money. Basically, in this entire poem, we have these different sellers here, and you had people, different class of people also coming to buy those things. You have different class of people. You have the kings and queens also. You have the normal general people also. You have children also. So it's a variety of buyers and a variety of sellers also. Merchants, vendors, peddlers, goldsmiths, fruitmen, flower girls, musicians and magicians. Merchants who sell the things, vendors who sell on the carts and they move around and they sell, peddlers, they move on foot or on a cycle and they sell their products. Then we have the goldsmith. Goldsmith are the people who make ornaments out of gold. Further we have the fruitmen, people selling fruits. Then we have the flower girl, the flower girls, they used to make garlands out of flowers, or maybe just little very small garlands, chaplets of the flowers, and then sell them. We also had the musicians who maybe they used to sell the instruments, or at the same time you had musicians playing the instruments in the market, and people used to go and give some amount of money to them and then enjoy the music there. Further, we also had magicians. You have on the roadside at times in the corners, you come across some magicians also who perform and they earn money by their performance there. Okay, so this was another part of the poem, an important discussion about the buyers and sellers in the poem. Since it's a bazaar, everything about the bazaar area is being talked about. Now, in the poem, with so much variety of buyers and sellers, Sarojini Naidu talks about the different what do you say, the different kinds of things, the feelings at times. For example, she was talking about colors. Obviously, when you have flowers and all, you have colors also. You have sounds because of the musicians, a very good sound that can also be present there. You had the smells. Now these things are there in the poem. In some way or the other, it is being shown in the poem here. Of course, you also have the beautiful touches of something, people selling certain product, and it's maybe some cloth. If they are selling, then the material is very soft, you can feel that material. So in the poem you get to see the feel of a touch, the different colors, you have the sounds, you have the smells. So it is a feeling that you can really see it happening in front of you. The things are all there in this Indian bazaar, right? And the most important thing, the poem, when we go through the poem, we will come across a simple thing where a buyer is asking the seller that what all do you have. That is basically there in the entire poem. So you have a conversation between a buyer and a seller, of course. A person who sells and a person who buys, a buyer and a seller. So the entire poem is all about this buyer and seller conversation. The buyers are being asked, the buyers are in fact asking the sellers that what product they have and what all can be done with that product, the different varieties of the product, what is it used for and everything. So that is the entire description given there in this beautiful poem in the Bazaars of Hyderabad.